All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the April 12th release engineering meeting. My name is Jeremy. I'll be the host today. If you haven't been to one of these meetings before, feel free to introduce yourself. We're going to drop the agenda into the chat. I've already done that once, but I'll do it again just for anybody else that has joined since I did that, since Slack isn't, or Zoom isn't super useful with its history of chat messages. If you could also add your name to the agenda so we just have an idea of who is attending, that would be super awesome. It looks like everybody that's on the call has been here before, but if anybody wants to say hey again or hello or just show the world your face, now's your opportunity to do so. All right. And with that, let's go ahead and move on. Do we have any updates from the release managers today? I don't think anybody except Adolfo is on at the moment.
Well, not that I'm aware of, but I mean, tangentially, we should maybe hear some words about the release date to get it on the recording.
Yeah, James, do you want to tackle since you're the authoritative voice right now, do you want to talk about delays to the release and the RC cuts?
Sure. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, our current state is that we have a release blocking bug. That bug is fixed by a change to Golang itself. That fix has landed in Golang and has been backported to the 1.18 release branch. And our understanding is that today we are going to get a 1.18.1 patch release from Go, and that will include our fix, which will therefore fix our bug and allow us to release. Our scheduled release date for 1.24 is in 1 week from today. And the general consensus is that this is not enough time, seeing as we have not cut any RC releases yet at all. So there is a GitHub discussion going on. There is a proposal put there by Stephen. The very short version of that is that we probably won't get 1.18.1 from Go out until later today, because Go releases typically land kind of mid-afternoon Pacific time. And given the other time necessary to do a release, we probably won't see an actual RC0 out until Thursday, Friday, or Monday. And given time needed for CI to soak, time needed for possibly an additional RC to be cut, the general idea at the moment is to push back the release by 2 weeks, which would put the 1.24 final release date on May 3rd, Tuesday, May 3rd. That's the current state of discussion as far as I'm aware. I'm a +1 on doing that. For many reasons, but I think it's pretty reasonable. I'm not super clear on who exactly does final sign off on that. I suppose it would be SIG releases more generally. But
I think you've got +1 from us, so I think the call is yours as the
call is mine
as the release lead. It's one of the many with great power.
Great power comes some great sending really big emails. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Then yeah, I think I'm going to delay it by 2 weeks because it doesn't seem reasonable to do anything else at this stage. Trying to rush something out is just silly. And I don't want to be like, oh, we're going to delay by a week and then have to delay by another week. I'd rather do it once and once only. So I think I will move to do that probably after this meeting.
Yeah, I would just circle back and definitively say that on the discussion issue so that everybody sees it and then we can.
Sure. I was going to ask about communication actually, because obviously I'll send an email to the community again, announcing the release and talking about it. Does it need to be broadcast more widely? Do we need anything more than that? To speak to people? Do we need to broadcast to the wider community, like with Twitter and social media and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it doesn't hurt to do that. We can engage contributor comms to do that.
Sure, I'll handle that after this meeting. I'll go through and start talking to people and get it down.
Yeah. From our side, I think it's important just to say that even if we could, in theory, recruit every possible hand to help on the needed upgrades and updates and version bumps, it would still leave a razor thin margin of error. Mm-hmm. And if anything, it would derail the whole thing. So it's much better to have it delayed from the tooling and release engineering side.
Sure. And I see Steven's just joined, so I can take credit for his idea, and we can.
What was the idea?
Delaying by 2 weeks.
I think, I apologize for the messing up the timeline in my comments. So I mean, I think what it's going to come down to is let's hope everything is okay once the .0 lands. In terms of the regressions that we're seeing for 18.1. I think, given that it's not a so sorry, Sasha, just for the recording, does this mean May 4th? I think we're looking at May 3rd, the Tuesday.
May 3rd. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And earlier the better. So we'll do Tuesday if we see that things are sliding. At least that gives us Wednesday and Thursday of that week to execute. To James, to your points within that thread, and I realize I didn't respond to them in the thread. Release dates are always aspirational. Whenever we give communications about releases, the hope is that it will be that date. That said, we are not soothsayers, and will not always have the ability to calculate exactly when the releases are going to happen. So optimistically, yes, we want to land for releases happening within Tuesday to Thursday within the week. Yes, we hope to release on May 3rd is a reasonable language, but always prepare for speed bumps. I think that any of the release delays that we've ever had have been due to things that have been unforeseen. So just be aware of that. We are calculating that anytime that we communicate, we're going to do our best to not have to move those dates around. But again, the reasons for delays will be unforeseen when they pop up. So.
Sure. So I was saying just before you joined, my kind of resolving to make that change and then going to go ahead and start communicating out to the community today effectively to say that our scheduled release date has changed.
Yeah, let's get I guess we can do I don't know if you want to do Etherpad or HackMD or Google Docs or whatever and do a draft, and we can all crunch on it together. But yeah, roughly, I think, the some combination of like what I said plus what you said on the discussion thread will roughly do it.
Okay, so after this meeting, I'll comment on the discussion thread to say that we're going to do that. We're going to move to May 3rd and then scheduled, and then I'll start something to try and get an email together, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Should we get the dates updated in the schedule first? Get a PR open for that. That way we can have that ready to send with the email.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Does anyone want to take that action?
I can just do that. That's
fine. Well, let's get you handled the comp stuff, but let's get a release manager to update the dates. That way you don't have to do both. Anybody on the call want to jump in and do that update of the schedule?
I can do it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. All yours.
I think Veronica jumped in first.
Yep.
No, I wish I didn't, but okay. I was just cringing that no one was saying yes, so I'll do it.
All right. Any other updates around release manager duties?
So outside of that, I think related to the RC0, and apologies if this was already discussed. I'm playing catch up from another meeting. I want to make sure that we clean up the branch jobs. I think I have time to take a look at that. But basically, when we're generating branch, the for doing the new branch jobs, as well as like the branch rotation. Some things are getting left behind. And that's related to, I think it's mainly related to like generic versus explicit version markers. So it's jobs like the, so I think Eddie, you saw some of this, jobs like the SKU jobs for CLI, where the version markers, we have a bunch of different version markers. Some of them are explicit, some of them are generic. Right. When I say explicit, I mean, if you look at the release version markers, we have like latest and stable, right? So like stable and stable 1 will give you whatever the most recent official Kubernetes release is, right? So our most recent should be 123 dot something, right? When you look at the, if you say stable, if you say latest 123, you should get the same number. If you say latest 122, you'll get the most recent 122, and so on and so forth, right? The generic ones are basically stable 1, 2, and 3 for CI versions, right? So stable 1, 2, and 3 will give you, I believe I added a stable 4 just to cover the entire set in the most recent PR. But stables 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4, or latest 1, 2, 3, and 4 will basically give you the CI build version for the release. So when jobs pull it, it's looking at anyway. In the switch, like when we change the branch job names, there's some swizzling of the version numbers for the markers when the markers get created. So for jobs that are essentially rotating from, say, beta or master, Kate's master or something, versus into beta or stable 1, it does that rotation based on the name of the job. Right, so it looks at the name of the job. It kind of grabs the suffix of that and uses that as the means to replace any references there. So that's falling over because we've gone from using the generic names for the jobs to explicit names for the jobs. So if you're doing a CI Kubernetes build for 123, it'll be called CI Kubernetes build 1-23 or something like that. As opposed to CI Kubernetes build -master or -stable 1, right? So I will look at that. Hopefully it's a quick fix, and hopefully we can get it in ahead of the RC0. That way there's no interesting things to pick up in the next branch cut for next cycle.
Thanks, Stephen. Anything else before we move on? All right, I'm going to jump down to open discussion now so we can get through some of those things. Then we'll bounce back and look at test grid and project dashboards. So the first thing I see on the open discussion is Leo. Do you want to share something, Leo? Do you want me to make you co-host so you can share your screen?
I think it's fine just to open the links.
Okay.
So it should be enough. So I think, as most of you know, there's a new repository. I think it got merged like a month ago or so. This is regarding the release team. So for the release team, we have all the shadow applicants, and to go through the shadow applicants a bit easier to select basically the applicants for a team, and also to visualize some charts and so on. This is basically the purpose of this repository. So let me quickly see. Could you share maybe the first examples? Right. So I think yesterday the PR got merged, where we create a bit of dummy data just to visualize this, because obviously we cannot share publicly the applicants, but this is now generated with all those basically dummy values. So as you can see, we create a bunch of files for every team. We split the files into newcomers and returners, because this is like part of the selection process. So we can see basically we have like the first applicant or the second applicant, Alexander,
I'm sorry.
for bug triage. And then we can basically just browse through this. So this is basically like the first feature or the first use case. So we have all those files for each release team, sub-team lead. So this should be easier just to select and to read through everything and so on. Right. This is like the first part,
okay,
what this project does. And the second one is generating all those diagrams and charts. So this is just basic. I think everybody seen those charts before. So we see, for example, for the affiliation, so we see where the applicant's coming from. So, I mean, this is just an example. We see a few from Amazon, whatever, and so on. And right, this also goes into basically, I mean, this is also part of the discussion. What can we show internally? What can we show also to the community? So maybe, for example, the time zones would be interesting, or also the affiliation, the pronouns, and so on. And I think there's room to generate more, but this is like the first basis. We have charts basically by team. So we see for each team, for example, CI signal, what are the applicants look like, kind of, and then like a general version. And we could then, based off all of those charts, create like a report or something, and then publish the report for every release cycle, or just hand this like internally. Right. So that's it for now.
And that all lives in the release team shadow stats repo?
Right, yeah. And this was also part of the retro meeting. And I think like just in a broader sense, I think the release team shadow application program should be like, I don't know, updated a little bit. So this was basically the kickoff why this came basically now. Right. So any thoughts on this? Should we use it for next cycle?
I think if we can, I'd like to see it used for 125. I think if we don't, there's a risk that this just kind of sits to the side and gets forgotten, which would be a real shame because this looks great and is probably far better than fiddling around in Google Sheets is what we do at the moment. So I'd be a +1 to trying to implement it in 125.
We've been talking about ways to improve the shadow application process for a little while now, and I think this is an awesome step towards that. And yeah, absolutely +1 for 125.
+1 for 125 as well. Is there, what is outstanding for us to be functional for 125? I mean, do we have a punch list of that?
Not right now. We have like a tracking issue, so I can update later the tracking issue to keep basically track of all the things that need to be done. From, I think, the part of sharing this information with the community, this needs to get discussed again with contributor experience, how this should look like and which charts we can basically share. And
so for the tracking issue, can you update it to kind of reflect, you know, what would be nice to have enhancements versus the must have ones for 125 if we're going to launch it?
Okay. Yeah. I think like part of the project, so basically to use this in the selection process of new shadows, we can, I think this is already done. I don't know if there should be anything else that needs to be added, but regarding the reporting and so on, this, right, needs to be clarified or discussed.
And just to be clear for anyone who is potentially going to be using this for next cycle, sorry, the tools are important. but people process tools. So even if you use one of these, even if you use something to kind of give you a view of potentials, please continue to use your feelings, your best judgments, making sure that we are, I think some of the analysis will make it easy to derive who is new, who's continuing, company diversity, regions, so on and so forth. I think what it will not tell you necessarily is people who would be good fits for your team, and that's going to be more of a personal vibe. Also, for me, if I'm running one of the roles, I'm considering maybe 4 shadows, 2 who have been here before, 2 who are net new, maybe some time zone coverage, and some flexibility in skill set, right? So maybe someone who is kind of on the engineering side, maybe someone who is on the program management side or technical writing or something like that, making sure that you're getting a bunch of personalities in the role. So yes, the stats are going to be good to help you solve some of the really easy things that we're trying to target, but still make sure that you're using your gut, doing a little gut check, and again, your leads are here for you, emeritus advisor, as well as SIG release leadership if you need to discuss any of your selections.
I was just going to add like 2 quick things, just so, and I know that we've talked, and so and I always appreciate, like, you do a great job, and I'm really excited when you always introduce these things. As I'm kind of wrapping up some of the things that I'm trying to hand off to Ray and Cece, as well as also talking to the release leads here and SIGs, is I feel like compared to like when we get something from the CNCF where it tries to identify like underrepresented, I think we lose it once we get past women. And one thing I was thinking about is like, how do we is there some way we can tackle this or not in a shadow form or not? So I know we've talked about like obviously privacy issues, things like that. So I was, so just keeping abreast if there's any changes would be important so that you adapt to that. And then the other piece is just kind of more, like I said, if there is, I know you're working, but just the data, whatever, and however we look at it, like I want to make sure that we are respectful of whatever geolocality, things like that, is just the only things that we need to be aware of.
All right, cool. So summarizing, I think the general consensus is we should start trying to use this for 125. Leo dropped the tracking issue in, but pretty much good for using it for 125, and we can follow up with enhancements later on. And we'll reach out to Contribex to see what data we should share in the name of transparency for folks that are coming into the shadow program, just the community in general who's interested. But also to remember people, processes, tools, and that this isn't selecting, it's really just kind of helping that first pass through the data to understand how things kind of shape out.
Yeah. I would also like to make sure that the, Jessica, to your point, that the emeritus advisors are aware of how to use this tool, both current and transition, and our incoming are aware of how to use this tool. They should be, I think, your go-to spot for support in terms of like stacking your squad for the next season, so to speak. But I agree that we have to be absolutely careful with the precious data that we are being given from these applicants. So if you are at any point unaware or worried about anything that we might be sharing, please bring it up. And if you feel you need to bring it up in a private space, please feel free to do so.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for discussion on that one. Next up, Adolfo, do you want to discuss dependent licensing issue?
Hey, yes. Well, so yesterday, well, the issue is now out in the open, so I think we should address it here for a few minutes at least. Yesterday, we had an issue raised by some members of the steering committee about some of the dependencies that we are pulling into the release engineering repositories. Some of the Go modules, which we are now pulling into Kubernetes or repos, are licensed under a non-acceptable license, that is the MPL, Mozilla Public License. So we weren't aware of those. At least we weren't aware of those breaching the acceptable licenses, and just wanted to let everyone know that we are looking into them. It seems that some of those modules came in as transient dependencies from some of the Sigstore code that we are pulling in to sign the images, and there is a way to ask the governing board for an exception on those modules, but they aren't like key modules that we need. So we're going to try to filter them into our dependencies first, and then go the exception route if we cannot avoid them getting pulled.
And so one thing to note related to exceptions for licenses, that they are done on really a per license per dependency basis, right? So this would not be a one shot, okay, we've got a problem with this license, can we get an exception for any repo that might fit it? It is for the specific case. So one of the better routes is, can we remove it? Does it absolutely need to be a dependency? And so Adelphi has linked the tracking issue, which links to the Sigstore tracking issue as well. And there's some lively conversation happening over there. Given that Sigstore is a project that is within the OpenSSF, we'll see that similar rules apply on the LF level regarding licensing. So let's try to make sure that whatever conversation that we have, like if this is a need for multiple projects across the LF umbrella, that we try to solve it in a way that is useful to all of those projects.
Eddie?
So I dealt with this a few times before, but I thought it was only we weren't allowed to pull dependencies, direct dependencies that had these licenses. I thought transitive dependencies was okay.
Not sure that is true, but it's been a while since I've dug in.
Yeah, I think that to be honest, this issue was raised yesterday afternoon, and I haven't looked closely at where the dependencies are coming from. I know some of them are coming from Sigstore, but I'm not sure if all of them are transitive. Some of the direct dependencies have modules that have already exceptions on them, but we have to check. Probably in 2 weeks in the next release engineering meeting will be a good time to give an update on where we're standing on that.
Does an exception have to be granted again for that project? Back to Stephen's earlier point.
So if the project is already listed in the set of accepted projects, which is there's a link in exceptions. If it's already listed there, then it's fine. If it is not listed there, then it's something that we have to revisit. And I think that there may be a few that are not included in that exceptions list so far. But I do, I do see like, some of them are like, it's error wrapping, and, and those I can imagine like are ones that we can easily find replacements for.
Yeah, precisely.
I found the comment from 2 years ago when this came up.
Yeah, precisely that error wrapping library was the one I was using yesterday to as an example, and it turns out that one has an exception on it. Oh, if it's the same one I'm thinking.
So do we know if this exceptions thingamajig is, if there is tooling around it?
To request it?
No, if there is tooling around the CNCF exceptions.json.
To match against your dependencies?
Yeah, exactly. They're also dropping in SPDX. So I mean, what I'm leading to is, someone had mentioned license classifier as well as Go licenses. So we should do some evaluations of like license tools, because I know a few of my repos may already have like declared whether they're using like license A or something. But we should find a tool that basically, for release utils at a baseline for release utils for release SDK and for K release. And probably, K promo tools, really all of our repos. But I think if you hit release utils and release SDK is a good starting point as like kind of the the baseline for the rest of the repos. Adding a configuration file that can read in the CNCF accepted licenses, pair that with what we consider to be accepted licenses, and have a blocking pre-submit for those things moving forward. And I mean blocking once we resolve the current issues, of course.
We can do that with the S1. That's what it's there for.
Check.
Cool. Yeah, I was precisely talking about that yesterday, and it turns out I think Bob mentioned that I think Beams has a PR for something like that, but otherwise we can build it ourselves as well.
Yeah. So there, I mean, I know there's some stuff in Kubernetes. It's been a while since I've looked at exactly how it works, and it could be heavier than we need it to be for repos that are non-Kubernetes. So yeah, so it's worth a look there if anyone wants to investigate.
This might be a tangent, so tell me to shut up if it is. But do we have any requirement to like ship copyright and attribution information for our dependencies when we distribute things like the container images for Kubernetes itself?
We do not, to the best of my knowledge.
Right.
We do drop for Kubernetes, at least there is a vendor folder that includes a set of licenses for our dependencies. But Kubernetes specifically is the rare case where we have a vendored folder as well as a third-party dependency folder. So like, is it a thing that we could do? Yes. Is it a thing that we have traditionally done as a release artifact? No.
Okay. I was just more wondering whether it was like a legal requirement for some of these things. I guess it can't be if no one's complained. Not that I'm a lawyer, of course. So simply, I've heard it in other places that you need to.
Yeah, the broad overview for everyone. The I am not a lawyer. Everyone screams into the chat like I am not a lawyer. But yeah, if this was distribution of like corporate artifacts, it'd be a different story.
Okay.
All right, we've got about 10 minutes left. Adolfo, do you want to discuss the next item, the image promoter?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update on that. So last week, the image promoter was updated to version 3.4.0, which is the first one to have signing capabilities in it. So as of last week, any image promotions are now signed, and we had our first lucky image promotion yesterday to get signed. I'll drop the link in a little bit. So we've uncovered some minor bugs in the new promoter implementation, which we plan to fix before the 1.24 release. I mean, I'm aiming getting those fixed and into production before the RC is cut. But yeah, just wanted to have on the recording the moment that we announced that we are now signing those images.
So huge congrats to everybody who was involved in getting that out of the way. We still have more work to do, as Adolfo mentioned, but it is a huge step for us. We'll note that this is signing that's actuated specifically by the image promoter. So if you happen to be signing on the sub-project level as well, the image promoter will preserve the signatures as of the next release, right, Adolfo?
So carrying them over to exactly. If you have your signatures already signed, those signatures will be lost and they will be replaced with new signatures from Kubernetes. But when we get the new version in, they will be preserved.
And as part of this, we've also added somewhat of a lightweight canary process for deploying the promoter, which means that we have much higher confidence in our ability to do it. You know, this kind of happens in phases, and when we do it, we're essentially doing we may bump the version and any of the command line flags for the promoter on the post submit side, and then do the periodic, and then do the prow level promotions. Now that we have a canary process in place that essentially rolls the image forward, there's a latest canary tag that will continually when it's running the job, it'll pull the image every time. So that means we're going to be able to catch, like on every commit, we'll be able to catch these ahead of time. So we've got a lot more confidence in rolling out this process, and we've got a lot more hands in the pie than we used to, which is really, really great. So hat tip to everyone who's been working on this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's were going to be my final remarks. So this was an effort that involved lots of people from SIG release. Thank you, but it also involves a lot of help from other SIGs, mainly SIG Kids Infra, SIG Security, and also over there on the Sigstore side. So thanks everyone. There's work is still going on and still lots to be done, but we are looking very good on this front.
Awesome. It's exciting to see that finally becoming a reality. All right. So that wraps up our open discussion items. We've got about 5 minutes left. How do people feel about walking the release engineering board real quick?
Let's see what we can do.
Let's do it. All right. Let me open it up and I'll share my screen. I'm using a Windows machine right now, and it's so weird because I haven't used one in so long that I don't remember where buttons are. Where is the thing?
All the commands are now controls.
Yeah, my keyboard's all wrong. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Share screen. Okay. Let's start with the blocked stuff. There is an automated cherry pick here. Upstream release 120. Do we need to keep that open at this point?
I feel like one, it's weird that it ended up on our board. Two, yeah, because it's not LGTM'd or approved. Two, it's stale. Three, yeah. Are we out of support for 120?
Yes.
Yeah. So anything that has, let's search base 120 on pull requests.
Yeah, it's been sitting since January.
Yeah, let's go to the top. All right. Yeah, go to pull requests. Let's just do open and then do base release 120. Is
that a label?
Colon, yeah, colon. Release -120. 1.20 here. All right, cool. And just select all and close those. Or, oh, are you not signed in?
No, I am.
Okay. Huh, you should be able to select them all. Maybe, yeah. Or maybe you don't have those magic powers, Jeremy.
Yeah, I probably don't have those magic powers.
Hold on. I will cast them into the void. All right, let's keep partying.
Partying. Okay, increase the GCB quota limit, which is milestone for 121.
That is impossible.
Yeah, that we cannot increase the. We can do some workaround on that, but we didn't reach like a consensus on how to implement that in the past.
Yeah, I believe the workaround was to have the individual jobs or repo level ones use their own service accounts, possibly. That there's no way to increase that quota specifically.
Yeah, but actually that doesn't solve all the problem as well, because if in our case, for example, in the SIG release, in the release repo, when we trigger, we like to solve the problem, we need to have like a service account for each image like we build, like that we trigger. One solution I found is like in the service that triggers the cloud build, we can put like some waiting time and do some checks, because I was doing some experimentations and saw that when we submit a job to cloud build, it takes some time and it gets in a queue. Like most of the time that we got the quota exceeded, the job is already submitted, it's waiting in the queue. And that can take some time and then to start running.
Yeah, so I mean, a decent chunk of our jobs run on the higher class instances for GCB, and so one, they're in the queue because they're waiting for the machines to start up. Two, when that quota limit happens, it's usually because we're building images, and we'll run into kind of like a thundering herd situation where all n variants of m images you're trying to build at the same time. So if there's we can figure out how to either make those builds less parallel or figure out how to stagger them. But I think that it happens like infrequently enough that it is not high priority for us. So it's the kind of thing that I would consider tossing in the backlog.
You want to leave this one open or create a new issue to track that with more context?
I would toss it in the backlog for now.
Okay.
I would keep this one open and toss it in the backlog.
Okay.
You can freeze it and put it in the backlog.
Yeah. I would try to keep our issues unfrozen unless there's a really good reason to freeze them. This one we should be staring at every other cycle.
All right, it's in the backlog now, and I'll clear the stale.
Cool.
All right, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Anything else anybody wants to bring up really quickly before we adjourn for the day? Oh, sorry, Arnaud, I didn't see your chat about the text being too small. Apologies. Next time I will zoom in. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and end the meeting today. Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on your time zone. Have a great week.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.